Well, good evening and welcome to this, the fourth round, as I understand it, of the Racing Pals series. That is Racing Pals GT3 Racing Series hosted in Spa-Francorchamps Competizione. You may not recognise me if you are only familiar with this series, but I am James Andrews, one of the Racing Pals commentators, usually commentating on our Assetto Corsa regular edition racing series of Project Ameliorate every other Sunday, but now I am filling in for Deep Cuts, who is unavailable today, to come and join and commentate on the wonderful racing that we have going on in Assetto Corsa Competizione. We are today at the great track of Spa-Francorchamps, where the drivers who have been, for the most part, here through the last three races will continue their challenges for the leads of their respective classes in our GT3 Cup. Let's have a look. Practice is currently ongoing, and most of the drivers are still in the pit lane as they are listening to our director Darkius give his driver briefing in the pre-race. Now, you may be aware that during this season usually there is a safety car who will come out if needed. Has not been needed thus far, has only been tested in the pre-season race event. So it'll be very ironic when it's definitely almost certainly got to be used today. Today we are not using the safety car, sadly, as I am usually the race director, and it's not, as this is rather a last minute replacement, it has not been possible to find a replacement race director, and I couldn't very well really do both jobs at the same time. So sadly no safety car today, but our resident safety car driver, Mr. Ivan Bratz, will be running a early sort of race direction role, ready to call a red flag in case of any major incident at the beginning of this race, which is much like how it used to be done in RP series, only more recently has the safety car come in to take the place of that. But whilst we have about 13 minutes left in this practice session, shall we take, and I'm going to actually switch to a different car, let's have a look at Aaron Fiedelack in the QP car whilst I take a run through the current driver's standings. Unfortunately, I have no graphics ready for you here today, but I shall simply read them off. At the moment in our pro category class, whatever you want to call it, Thomas Jack currently leads with 29 points, having had one P2 finish, one P1, and missing the second round at Watkins Glen. He is followed very shortly by Jarmeek Smith with 28 points and Darkius Pierre Moreno with 27 in third. Further down the list go Tobias Wengerek, Robin Moe, Mats Linham, Sylvan Hubble, Linus Lucassen, Oliver Meyer, Dominic Beck, and Leon Leloup. In our silver class, Daniel Scott currently leads the championship, but he is tied with Philip Schmidt, both, much like Tom before them, on 29 points. As you see Aaron go very, very wide out of Puon. Golium Eli Schwartz is P2 in silver with 20, or P3 I guess technically overall in silver. P4 is Samuel Hullebeck, followed by Bingus McBongus, Graham Loki, Jay Langevin, Suicidal Cookie, Sench, The Good Doctor, Beef Nacho, also known as Corey Davis, Aaron Fiedelack, Justin Gottlieb, Trainboy 2005, Marcel Arndt, Nathaniel Foltz, Rochelau, and Toby Long. Brings up the rear of the silver class with 16th place with only 2 points. In bronze, meanwhile, Hiro Kurakami, one of our HCR drivers, our Helios Community Racing friends, or pals I guess, is in P1 with 33 points, followed closely by his Helios teammate, or I guess not teammate, but Helios partner, Benjamin Walrack in P2, and Alexander Gluz takes P3. Black Angel is in 4th, followed by Zor, which is spelled Xohr. I'm not quite sure what his name's be in game. I hope it's It might just be Zor. Yes, it is Zor. Ex-Zor. Well, Cheba then is P6. That's Frederick Schublem. Fail Games 47 is in P7, followed by Van Galuva, Mark Blessing, Gary Rowe, and Eric Siddons. A very painless running through of our standings at the moment. Let's then have a little look then at our current practice session and how everyone is getting on within it. I'll sort out some of my race control stuff. I see no one has apparently set a valid lap according to race control, so we shall figure out if they actually do. For the moment, it's still showing. Never mind, there we are. Tobias Wengerich posts the first best lap of the session, a 2:19.1. But I happen to know from hearing people practicing, there's certainly going to be some faster laps from this. But let's have a little look then at this lap. So you may know he's just come down from the La Source hairpin of turn 1, now going up Eau Rouge and Radion. Onto the long straight where the Kemmel corner, we go on board interior. That's not a very good one. Let's see if we can get a bonnet. No, that's not going to be a passenger. There we are. And on the Kemmel straight now up to Lacombe, the hard braking zone for the right and left hand chicane through now into Malmedy. And here we get to the part of the track where every corner has at least 2 names, and no one can quite agree on which one to use. So here we come through to Cressel, also known as Beaurivage, the long downhill right-hander, now up to No Name, also known as Speaker's Corner, also known as Jackie X Corner. Although I think Jackie X actually recently rejected that particular name. Now still on the downhill straight up to Buon, which is also known as the Double Gauche, but I think that's, out of all the multi-name corners on this circuit, that is probably the least known. Now up to Lafan, the chicane also known as Piff Path, because it goes Piff and then it goes Path. Now up to the corner which is sometimes known as Stavelo, also sometimes known as Campus, although Campus is also sometimes the corner before, and then up to the corner also sometimes known as Stavelo. For my purposes, I like to treat this one as Stavelo, the one before it's Campus, the one before it as Lafan or Piff-Pap. Now through to Curb Paul Frere, which again also moves a little bit depending on who made the particular track map you're looking at. But everyone can agree on the next one. It's Blanchimon, the fast left-hander that is completely flat out in these cars and takes you up to the chicane. The chicane which has 2 names but also kind of doesn't. Some people call it the bus stop, but it's not really the bus stop anymore. It used to be, but now it's just a regular old chicane. And across the line to set yet a better lap of a 2:18.895 and rounds himself around the tight hairpin of La Source to do it all again. Such is the fun of motor racing and circuit racing. Still waiting. I don't know how long the driver briefing is gone on for. It looks like it is over, so drivers should be starting to do some practice laps. As I don't know what happened there. But guess what? This isn't a Assetto Corsa anymore. This is a Assetto Corsa Competizione, so I get to finally play with replays. Sadly, I won't have the replay transition slide. Like I said, this was a last-minute sort replacement, and the person who was doing it is away. The only other person I can think of that would have it just apparently didn't. So I have no transitions, but I have replays. Let's see what happened there. Jarmeek goes up Eau Rouge. He gets... Oh, that's not very happy situation. That's the 951 car, frequently belonging to Frederick Schublem, and indeed does on this occasion. Jarmeek just got very loose on the exit of... Well, on the middle, I guess, of Eau Rouge and Radion. ploughing right into the pit lane, which cuts across the sort of runoff area to the right-hand side of Eau Rouge. Maybe not the best placement for a pit lane, but I guess there's not much else place to put it. And in doing so, Cheba had a surprise as he left the pit lane to try and start an outlap. Okay, so let's instead have a look. So this is Zasterios Zor, I am assuming of the pronunciation, in a very, very interesting sort of black and white spotted livery. I'm not sure if he's going for a cow or a Dalmatian style thing there, but it's hurting my mind to look at it slightly. Let's have a look at as he himself comes through the chicane to complete what will be a quicker lap than his best, but will only still manage him a 2:24.160. At the top of your leaderboard still sits Tobias Wengerek, but still to set a lap is, I'm going to have a look at the first quick person I know, Thomas Jack. In a very beautiful Wins Small PP Racing Team livery. I wonder who made that. Whoever it is was clearly a design genius. But Thomas Jack, one of our quicker drivers, certainly will have something to say about the current standings at the top of the board, as he himself comes through Puon up to Piff Paff. But in front of him is the 922 car, Pierre Moreno, seemingly on an outlap. He is blue flagged according to the map on the right hand side of the screen. Has yet to be seen, however. Pierre Moreno is a quick driver and certainly won't hold Thomas Jack up by the end of this lap as he comes through Stavelot up to Paul Frere. As Benjamin Warwick takes 4th place away from Zor. The AM drivers currently sitting P4 and P5, whilst the pros have yet to set their laps. 22 cars currently on this grid. As Thomas Jack rounds, he's currently 2.7 up on his best time delta, but hasn't actually set a best time, so we'll see. As he crosses the line, that puts him to P1 with a 2:17.050. Almost 2 seconds off of the... or 2 seconds ahead of Tobias Wengerek in P2. As he rounds the source, he already is slightly up on his delta. Meanwhile, who else on the lap? As I was saying, Pierre Moreno just started his flying lap, as we saw his outlap in front of Thomas Jack. As drivers continue to get used to the conditions, used to the cars. Though there should be a little warning that I believe there is a chance of rain in today's race. A very small one, as Pierre Moreno pulls to the side of the track and says, no, thank you, I think I'm going to return to the pit lane, possibly to make maybe some setup changes. A pure black Porsche of Dominic Viper then, the pro driver for DT Racing. It's just carbon. I don't know whether maybe he just forgot to submit a livery and it's giving me the plain carbon. Certainly looks aggressive, whatever the facts. He's going to cross the line. He's going to be very quick. Yep, that puts him P3 with a 2:18.897. Only 2 thousandths of a second off of Tobias Wengerek's best time in P2. Of course, this is still all just practice, and we have qualifying. I think 20 minutes of it yet to come. I can't remember what the format is, but except for one thing, the format of this race is. So as the the events of this season have been mixed up a little bit. We started with a natural pre-season race and a natural race 1 of 60 minutes with 1 mandatory pit stop at Nürburgring and Kyalami. Race 2 we then had, I believe, yes we did, a 70-minute race with no mandatory pit stop at Watkins Glen, which certainly led to some interesting racing and battling of fuel saving amongst the pack, except for one person, that was Matt Slimmer Anderson, who just poured everything he could into that car and pitted anyway and still won the race, although to quite a tight margin. Then race 3. We did a 60-minute race at Alton Park, except instead of the usual one mandatory pit stop, we had 2 mandatory pit stops, of which also included tyre change necessities. And now we come to race 4 here at Spa-Francorchamps, which is going to be the longest race of this season, at 80 minutes with only 1 mandatory pit stop required by each of these drivers. That includes a change of tyres and optional fuel. Right, so free practice has ended officially as Viper peels into the pit lane. Yet to do a lap, or people who haven't done a lap from who we know to be the front runners, include Simon B, who has attended this race, or is attending this race in a livery which hasn't properly given me any detail to it. Shake it loose. Yes, I can shake it loose, apparently. Simon Beeg has joined us, a very quick driver in the 95 Aston Martin AMG Mercedes, as well as Robin Moe in the Manthe Racing liveried Porsche 911 GT3 992.1. Whatever Porsche decided to call this one. And Pierre Moreno in the same car, with a very nice Spectre Racing livery, as he is the Spectre driver also in Project Ameliorate. As well as here, he has not set a lap and is currently checkered flagged, so whatever lap he manages to do here will not be counted if the session doesn't end before he does. The last car on a lap still, although up on their best time, but they haven't set a best time, therefore whatever it is will be on the board, is Eli Schwartz in the very brightly coloured and slightly Swedish inspired by the looks of those crowns on the bonnet there. Formula Friends car. So he rounds the chicane to cross the line, and what will it be for Eli Schwartz? Well, it was 8th place. Whatever the time actually was. I'm going to do a return to garage and a drive to get me back for this 15 minutes. It was 15 minutes qualifying session, as out of the pits first, way ahead of the rest of the pack, is our silver driver of Bingus McBongus in the number 8 McLaren. I say McLaren because I was reading McBongus Racing down there. The number 8 Lamborghini, not the 8-wheel this time around that he drove, not last season, I think the season before, but very nice, beautiful livery for Bingus McBongus here. And behind him, you may have just seen down the road a little bit, was, I'm going to find him whilst they do the outlap, Daniel Scott, our another Wins driver, but this time Wins Kopasuka in the 31 car, not to be confused with Thomas Jack in the Wins Small PP McLaren as well. I believe that ahead of him is, I believe that's Justin Gottlieb, unless, I'll have a check actually. No, it's not. It's not Kurakami either. It is, I'm not really sure who it is. I can check though. It is Alexander Kloos. For some reason, I didn't think that was a Mercedes. But it is a Mercedes, and is a very nice blue and orange livery. But this isn't a colouring competition. It's racing, as you can see. Muscle comes, Bingus McBongus comes through Paul Frere on the map. He'll soon be up to Blanchimont and starting his flying lap with these two cars not too far behind. But Thomas Jack is the one actually right behind Bingus McBongus. And we shall see what these cars can do for the first time here at Spa-Francorchamps in a couple of seasons. Actually, we haven't been here for a little while. Let's have a look then. Bingus McBongus takes the flag to start qualifying for his first lap. Cars will only get, I think, 3 laps in probably maximum, if for a push, due to the time constraints on this server. I think they could get 4 if they've packed enough fuel for it. If they have to refuel, they might not. Depends on the timing, and that is Bongus already on an invalid lap. So let's go to Thomas Jack. He cut the top of Eau Rouge significantly, and his lap has been deemed invalid. So he won't get 4 laps. He might get 3 if he is lucky. Although if he times it right, he could get 4 if he can cross the line just in time. Thomas Jack takes Lacombe very nicely, finding all the apex with Robin Moe right behind him. These two are going to be scrapping it out, I think, this race, as they usually are. They both succumbing to some issues at Alton Park, Robin Moe more solo, having been put quite far down the order, I think, by some late drive-throughs and issues with a mechanical, that being his own actual wheel. Actually, I can't remember where Robin Moe finished at Alton. Let's have a look. Yes, Robin Moe finished P7. No, sorry, P5 at Alton Park. Due to his issues owing to drive-throughs and wheel technical difficulties. As Thomas Jack rounds Campers and Stavelot to onto the long stretch for Paul Frere up to Blanchimont, up to the chicane. Have a look what the lap times are going to be. Bingus McBongus ahead of him is slower. He's caught him a little bit through this lap, but Bongus is going to start a new flying lap next, as he had invalidated his first, and may hold Thomas Jack up a little bit on his second lap if Tom continues to drive and doesn't return to pits. And it is a 2:16.8 for your current provisional pole sitter, even though there's only 2 people across the line. That is almost a second quicker than Robin Moe, who crossed the line to do a 2:17.752. Who's this? That's Travis McNeil, has just crossed the line himself. He is 5th place, having done a 2:20.475. But as they roll in, Pierre Moreno beats Robin Moe, as does Dominic Viper. Viper, who does a 17.537. Pierre Moreno does a 17.520. Taking P2 and P3 from Robin Moe, who has done a 17.7. Tobias Wingerek then, a rather quick driver in the last few races, only currently manages a 2:18.2. I say only as though I could do anything near that, at least not at the moment. But compared to Thomas Jack's 16, it is certainly a way off. Daniel Scott then currently leads the silver category, still though stuck a little behind Kloos in the Mercedes. Kloos, who goes wide, gets an off-track and invalidation, and goes off-track for good measure to let Daniel Scott by. Bingus McBongus then has a yellow flag on my thing, but apparently not. Thank you for that race control. So Daniel Scott currently leads the silver category with a 2:18.837. Meanwhile, down in the AM category, it is our Page, that is Ryan Page in the Ferrari 296, who has put in a 2:20.242 that leaves that class. Travis McNeil, meanwhile, I need to refresh my memory, so give me a second here. Yes, Travis McNeil is one of 2 drivers includes him and Dominic Viper, who, despite being platinum on the timings tower, as you can see indicated by the white badge behind their number on the timing tower, despite being platinum, he has not put in a lap time sheet as we have to if you want to drive in this series, and therefore is in platinum because he hasn't been classified instead of actually being platinum, and it looks based upon this that he may be put into either silver or am unless he can pick up the place. Dominic Viper, meanwhile, also didn't submit a stint sheet, but I think it's almost certainly going to end up in platinum, judging by his current position. I have just realised I have no timings on here, and I can't remember what the hotkey is to get them back. Can I do that? Nope. Give me a second, I'm going to have a look. Well, I'm going to try and figure it out. Yes, it was. Okay, I've worked it out. There you go. Now you have timings. As we come to the last 6 odd minutes of qualifying, you can now see exactly how much everyone is leading or not by. Thomas Jack still at P1 with a 2:16.765. Pierre Moreno, however, has put in a better lap time since with a 2:97 or 17.297. He is currently on, however, an invalid lap. Robin Moe also currently on an invalid lap. A 2:17.455 has taken P3 from Dominic Viper. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, just goes quicker again with a 2:16.462. It's certainly all to play for at the moment between those top 4, or at least between those 2nd through 4th at the moment. Thomas Jack seems to be in a league of his own. Look who is going on a good lap. C. Davis, as Corey Davis, another Formula Friends in the Tango Lamborghini, currently at 2:20, is up on his time. He has now put in a 2:19.2 to take him to P2 in silver class as he stops on the line to return to the pit lane. Jarmeek Smith, meanwhile, not the last of the platinum drivers, but the last of those that have put in a lap time, except for Travis McNeil, who, as I said, is only platinum because he did not put in a stint sheet rather than actually being platinum. Jarmeek Smith has only managed to do a 2:19.172. I happen to know that earlier in the day he was complaining about the performance of the Bentley here. It just seems that he cannot get that machine working around this circuit. But at the moment he is on a clean lap, but is very much just matching his time. Doesn't seem to be able to improve. Who is improving? That is Daniel Scott. 4 tenths up as he comes into Brussels. Now 5 tenths. Can he maintain? Down through Speaker's Corner, and the long stretch, or the shortish stretch, but long compared to the other stretches. Down to Huon, or the double gorge, if you want to call it that no one ever does, but for some reason is a name. Oh, he seems to have lost quite a bit of time through Huon. He is now matching his best time, still losing a little bit. Can he pull it back? It doesn't seem like he can. Maybe a little bit of wash from the car ahead. That being Justin Gottlieb, the 36 car. Who is still, however, Jarmeek Smith, we mentioned him not too long ago. He is That's a weird interior camera. I forgot this car's right-hand drive. He is up on his time. What can he do? It's a 2:19.1 for him now across the line. It is a 2:18.7. It doesn't move him at all, despite being a good 7 tenths up. Well, not 7 tenths, 4 tenths, 5 tenths up. Robin Moe, meanwhile, is also another driver quicker on his lap time and currently poised to best Pierre Moreno, but he has to get past this Lamborghini. That's going to cost him time, and he goes off track and does get caught out. The Lamborghini, however, was on a hot lap and therefore was not entitled to move over and give him any room. Certainly just a case of Robin not leaving enough distance between himself and the car ahead, is going to try, I think, and put in another lap and leave some time to the 52 car ahead to do so. While Tobias Wengerek up on his time into Lacombe. Almost 3 tenths. Robin Moe has a yellow flag and has returned to the pit lane, possibly to put one more or 2 more laps of fuel in the car, get one good outlap and a final run. Tobias Wengerek, who from previous races should be competing very much towards the top of this field, except maybe with Thomas Jack, who clearly has the dominant position here. At some point along the way as well, Dominic Viper put in a 2:17.190 to take P2 from Pierre Moreno, who held it formerly, and also give P3 to Pierre Moreno from Robin Moe. I think if anything's being proven here, it's that Dominic Viper, certainly, despite not submitting his lap times, is a platinum driver. There is no doubt about it. As Fozzie Man in the chat says, Bentley no bueno here. And I think that certainly seems to be how it's shaping up, although Jameek Smith still in P8. Certainly may, out of the bad luck and misfortune of others, gain some places when this race begins. As Tobias Wengerek currently 6 tenths up on his time, lost a little bit out of the chicane, however, but can he improve? Yes, he can, but it doesn't move him up. It moves him to a 2:17.485. 300ths of a second off of Robin Moe. If he hadn't lost that time out of the chicane, he certainly would be in P4 right now, possibly in P3 as well. But at the very least, we know now that he can compete near the top. Thomas Jack has pulled over, and I think that'll be the end of his qualifying session. Bingus McMongus crosses the line himself to do a 2:18.137, taking P6 and first in class from Daniel Scott, who is also up on his time, as he's just started his new lap as the clock has shifted over to the final second of qualifying. This will be his last lap. The wait time is on the clock, but no one should exceed it. Daniel Scott currently 3 tenths up on his best time as he comes to Lacombe. We'll have to see if he is able to take that P1 spot in silver class back from Bingus McMongus. Simon Beeg, meanwhile, as I have a quick look, is also on a lap. We go with him before returning to Daniel Scott. Hasn't, I don't think, done another lap in this session. So, he says he's 2 tenths up, but I have no idea what that is based on. He's decided to come out. Is he going to stunt upon everyone, having done no previous laps? We shall find out as he comes up to the chicane. I'm moving the order on my race control to the top of the list, see what he can do. And only P13. I was expecting more, but I guess he hadn't done a lap yet. Let's go back then to Daniel Scott. Simon Beek did a 2:19.257, but I do not think that is where that particular driver is going to finish this race. Daniel Scott invalidates at Stavolo. He has invalidated and will not gain back his P1. He will start P2 in silver class with 2 definite AM drivers behind. Well, sorry, 3 definite AM drivers behind him. As Dominic Viper peels into pit lane, Eli Schwartz is the last man on track on a good lap and on track in general. He will cross the line. It's a 2:20.035 for him. P17 for Eli Schwartz. And there you have it. Your race order as I reset. If I can. Yes, I can. My thing to get rid of the session over message. It is then. Jacob Snack saying the Porsche is too strong. Certainly is quite strong. The Porsche is being 2, 3, 4, and 5 in Platinum at least. However, I do know that everyone has been complaining about the strength of the McLaren here today, and I think Thomas Jack is certainly proving, with a good second over the rest of the field, that the McLaren has quite a bit of pace in it. But it is something, as I understand it, of a little bit of a giving back to them after everything that was taken away at Kiel Army, where the McLaren was certainly one of the weakest cars in the grid. Weight drivers now are going to be sorting their pressures out, sorting out their fuel loads, making sure their pit strategies are ready to go. And at the moment, there is no sign of bad weather on the radar, just a little bit of cloud and a little bit of sun. It looks like it will be a clean, dry race, but who knows, maybe we'll get some rain towards the end. 1 hour and 20 minutes on the clock. The longest race of this season, 1 mandatory pit stop, which we will have to see when the drivers decide to take it. We come to 1 minute before the formation lap begins, and we go racing at Spa-Francorchamps. If anything can be said, though, about this qualifying session, is it's certainly going to throw a bit of a wrench into the works of Robin Moe, who after that poor finish at Alton Park would be hoping for some good luck today and some good racing. But with Dominic Viper stepping in as a new driver in the Platinum class that he will almost certainly remain in, that is yet another driver that Moe is going to have to get past again if he wants to try and maintain some sort of lead before the final round 2 weeks away at Suzuka, which also happens to be the same final track as Project Ameliorate, and try and compete with Thomas Jack for the title if he can manage to get some good points out today. As Thomas Jack peels away slowly as we begin our formation lap. Jager, I think this series has shown, or this season thus far has shown, that drivers can make it cleanly through places where they shouldn't be able to, which has rather amusingly coincided with us having a safety car. So as this is the only race of the season thus far we do not have the safety car, it will almost certainly be the first race at which we need one. So my instincts from previous races want to say it's going to be really nice and clean, but the fates that all the gods have in store for us usually would tell me to say it's going to be disastrous. We have jinxed it by changing the format. Is your pole sitter for Platinum, Mr. Thomas Jack. Let's have a look further down the order. Bingus McBongus just ahead of Daniel Scott, your pole sitter for the silver class. And I haven't had a proper look at them in a little while. It is Mr. Ryan Page who is doing some funky stuff with Aaron Fiedelack in the QB car. A bit of a Max Verstappen style maneuver there. He is however, Ryan Page is your AM class leader by a good 2 cars between him and Benjamin Warwick behind. One of whom, again, just to reiterate, is Travis McNeil, who is not a platinum driver for definite. He is for this race, but as he did not submit a lap time sheet, he has only been put into platinum until he can be assigned a proper class, which, judging by this, I think might be silver, it might be AM, it could go either way, to be honest. We will see by the end of the race. It's the problem that his qualifying's put him ahead of all AM drivers except for 1, but behind all silver drivers except for 2. So we'll have to see where he finishes this race and where the race director believes, or the series director, I guess, because there is a different race director, which currently is Mr. President Eamon Bratz, who will be checking for a red flag necessity. Our series director will obviously review Travis's progress or ability at the end of this race and put him into one of the appropriate categories, which I think will be either silver or amateur. Hear the roar of the engines down through Blanchimont, and now a little bit more silence at the front of the grid. Have a look at Robin Moe starting P4. It is a McLaren, a Porsche, a Porsche, a Porsche, and a Porsche. And then a Lamborghini just to throw a curveball at us. As we actually have 3 Lamborghinis here. Unfortunately, Jürgen Zuchthuizen is not here. We've made 4 Lamborghinis. Something I thought I saw a double Lamborghini there on the list, but I did not. And we have 1 Lexus being driven by Justin Gottlieb, the true Chad of this league. There was another Lexus signed up somewhere, but I don't think they are here today. And Kurakami in the 1 single Nissan for this race. Their place at the back of the grid at the moment hopefully is not too much of an indictment on their choice of cars, as Thomas Jack now, say, form 2 wide, ready for the race start. Remember, it does not start here on this layout. The Assetto Corsa Competizione simulation uses the endurance layout with the endurance pit lane, and thus the start line is not just at the line after the chicane or in the middle of the chicane and La Source. It is the old start down the hill towards Eau Rouge. But the finish line is still that same line you can see on the map after the chicane. See if I can get a good... What's the best shot? There we are. See them crawling down towards the start. Thomas Jack, I think, can decide to go almost any time. Well, he can't decide, but he gets told.
Green light,
green light, and they're off! And that is a good start by Dominic Viper, but he doesn't quite manage to get anything alongside enough to make any sort of move through Eau Rouge. And Thomas Jack looked like he is already 5 tenths ahead. And these Porsches are going to be absolutely battling it out into Le Com. There has been no crash up Eau Rouge. Actually, wait, I'm the commentator. I can jinx it as much as I want. And that looks to be Darky as Pierre Moreno, he tries to make the move through Le Com, but gets onto the curbing, and it puts him down a little bit. But he will take the outside line through Malmedy, and he is ahead. That is Pierre Moreno up to P3. Robin Moe, meanwhile, making a dive down the inside of Bruxelles. And now Robin Moe has made himself up to P3. Pierre Moreno, sorry, up to P2. It looks like Vingerek's going to try and make a move for good measure. But he goes off track. He gets forced a little bit off track, I think. And that's Daniel Scott at some point in all that. Up to P6 and P1 in silver class. Bingus McBongus has fallen down to P2 and P8 overall. Daniel Scott certainly made his way up, so your order at the moment at the top of the grid is still Thomas Jack, 2.2 seconds ahead already. Pierre Morello, Robin Moe, Dominic Viper and Tobias Wengerick having all been fighting for position has allowed Thomas Jack to climb up the lead and get a good little gap between himself and the Porsches behind. Daniel Scott, meanwhile, under threat from Jarmeek Smith, not racing in class, but certainly racing for position in this race. And Jarmeek, who will want to try and get ahead and get onto the back of the Porsches, if he can manage it. There's been something happen. Oh, who's that? That's not Travis McNeil, it was Clues off into the gravel. Let's have a little replay, because I can in this, and have a look at what happened here. They are three wide through Paul Frere. Oh, I think that's one of the Porsches, and the Mercedes of Aaron Clues off into the barrier at some speed. And Frederick Chublam also having been caught up in some incident there himself, now down a little bit. Let's have a look at what he was caught up in. I think he was just collected. He was caught and collected and hit as he had to slow down. He obeyed the yellow flags. The Lamborghini of the Zor did not so much. I think if he protests that post-race, that is a slam dunk penalty due to the lack of slowing for the yellow flags and the incident ahead. For the Lamborghini, although despite damage, I do have to take a moment to admire, as it gives me a chance to have a look at him. The beauty of this Porsche 951 car. But back at the top of the grid, Thomas Jack, unfazed by anything happening behind him. P1 in class by 3.4 seconds now. Robin Moe at some point during looking at the replays, in very classic Formula 1 style, has gotten himself through to P2. And leads now 0.6 seconds off Pierre Moreno, as those three Porsches behind him try to vie for their own positions amongst each other and for the right to fight Robin Moe to take P2. What a close gaps behind. Ryan Page is on the rear of Justin Gottlieb, only 0.4 seconds between them in the fight for P16. However, that is not a class fight. But Page has got Benjamin Worak, the HCR car, rapidly gaining on him. 0.3 seconds now, just down from 0.5 only a few short moments ago. 0.2 almost. Can Benjamin Worak make a move and make it work? I do not know what that noise was. That was a set of Corsa being weird. Was that car backfiring? But we are still looking on board as Benjamin Worak has dropped off a little bit into the chicane. I will maybe try and fight continually as Dominic Viper now right on the back of Pierre Moreno, and Tobias Wengerick still within striking distance of his fellow Porsche. Bingus McBongus, meanwhile, is on the cusp of overtaking Jarmeek Smith for that P7 position. Oh, M. Steiner's in the wall. I will want to have a look back there and see what happened real quickly. Oh, as Aaron Fiedelack also seems to have lost the car. What happened here? Did he just lose it? I think he lost it trying to avoid Bingus McBongus and ended up in the wall. And Aaron Fiedelack, you can see, also just lost the car under acceleration in between Lacombe and Malmedy. Yeah, Jacob, that was on the stream. He wasn't in your battle big game. I don't know what quite happened there. The Assetto Corsa just being Assetto Corsa being weird, even if it is Competizione. Well, let's have a look up ahead. The silver battle for P13. It's Justin Gottlieb on Eli Schwartz, very possibly about to make a move if he can get a little bit closer. Trying not to lose the battle up the top as Dominic Viper coming through Blanchiron is 0.2 seconds away from Pierre Moreno. Can he try anything into the chicane? Try get good braking. It's a good fighting line. That's all up to the acceleration. And Robin Moe, meanwhile, takes the fastest lap of the race. A 2:17.710. A good 600, better than the best lap of the race thus far from Thomas Jack ahead. Thomas Jack, meanwhile, has only been doing 2:18 the last lap, and that's allowed Robin to close the gap a little bit. Something that he would certainly hope to be repeating as the race goes on. Bingus Mabongas once again into Lacombe, side by side with Jarmeek Smith. Bentley versus Lamborghini. Bentley just has it into Malmedy, and now Simon Beeg on the back of Bingus Mabongas. Going to try and make a move on the outside of Bruxelles. Little contact, little door bang. Didn't leave Bingus much space there to play with. It's Fuyutsuki in the server. He says, let's go HCR, and certainly they are going. And hopefully in the right direction. I'll have a look at them in a moment. Looks like Simon Beeg is going to try and fight against Bingus Mabongas for as long as he can. Take a minute, actually, yes, the HCR cars. Benjamin Worak currently still in P2 in the AM class, fighting hard for that lead against Ryan Page. With Travis McNeil just behind, I think. But Travis McNeil has been caught up, or was caught up, in that three-car collision and has some visible damage on the left-hand side to show for it. The 990, meanwhile, of Kurakami is down in P21. I think they must have also been caught up in some sort of incident, as almost everyone around them is down that far for the same reason. But the Nissan certainly plucking along. And hopefully, with the remaining hour and 10 minutes of this race, we'll catch up somewhat through misfortune of others. If not just through their own pace, as that was Ryan Page and Justin Gottlieb having a coming together. I think Ryan Page has realised that must have been his fault. We'll have a look at it in a minute. He's given the place back to Justin Gottlieb, but that means that Benjamin Worak is through to the lead of the AM class. And has a good little gap gain now to Ryan Page behind. Let's have a look quickly then at what happened there. I can see going into the bus stop. Oh, he tries to avoid, does Ryan Page. He tries to do his best to not hit the back of the car, but into the turning point of the bus stop. It's basically impossible to go that direction and survive. As meanwhile, Bingus Mabongas has just made the moves. Let's have a look and see if I can see this. Into Lacombe on Jarmeek Smith in the Bentley. It makes a good exit. He's just far enough ahead into the second section that he's well ahead into Malmedy. And he will hope to remain there. Meanwhile, up the front, Dominic Viper still chasing down Pierre Moreno. This has allowed Robin Moe to get a good 3 seconds up the road now. And there's a car off. It's the 98 car of Zor. There's no contact listed, so let's go back 50 seconds, see if we can find out what happened here. Again, one of the cars that has had some crashes, he just lost it, and into the barrier he goes. And in classic ACC fashion, comes to an immediate stop with no bodywork damage. Clearly visible. But I guess the camouflage helps with that. Dominic Viper, meanwhile. So Dominic Viper has lost Wengerek 1.1 seconds behind, or 1.006 seconds to the other time trial behind to Wengerek, but it's still him and Darkius just fighting it out. for P3, the final of the podium in the Platinum class. Oh, Engerich gets some really good braking though, and he's now closed up the gap a little bit as Viper has lost a little bit to Darkness ahead. Meanwhile, Daniel Scott, I was actually going to have a look, Benjamin Warrack has just had an issue of his own. We shall see where that leads him. Gottlieb may not, I don't think he's going to get past him by the source, but that has given Ryan Page a little bit more hope. Let's have a look, see if I can have a look. It looks like he just went deep at, I'm just going to watch this again. It looks like he just went deep at the bus stop chicane, which isn't a bus stop anymore, and took to the escape runoff. Got back on track, but did lose some time and lost one place overall to Travis McNeil. And to remind you, as I haven't said it enough, Travis McNeil is only platinum because he has not submitted his stint sheets, and very well maybe am at the end of this race. So Benjamin Warrack very well could be, and this is for Fuyasuki if he is still in chat and wants to maybe warn Benjamin Warrack of this, could be fighting for a class position if Travis McNeil gets put into the amateur class at the end of this race. So if you want to warn Warrack that his P1 may very quickly become a P2, might want to do so now. And I am thinking, looking at Travis's race, it might be the case that he will be put into the AM class. Although again, he was involved in an incident and maybe could still end up silver. M. Steiner, meanwhile, who is supposed to be, I think, actually a platinum driver, as far as I'm aware, down in P18. I'm not quite sure what has happened here. I think he may have also been involved in an incident. Oh no, he was, sorry, yes, he was the guy that got flung into the wall, wasn't he? No, that was Clues. Well, something's happened to him, and he is now down into 18th. Suki said he's still here. Well, in case you didn't hear me, you may want to warn Benjamin Warrack that his P1 in class may not be P1 if Travis McNeil ends up being put into the AM class, as he is only platinum for not submitting times to be put into his class. So may end up P1 in the amateur class for this race. Meanwhile, Corey Davis seemingly has just been overtaken, Justin Hoffman. Let's have a quick look at this. Into La Source. Oh, its door is open. And the Tango card says, I'll have that, thank you very much. And decides to say, yep, I'm having it, let's go. Hoffman may try to fight back. Well, probably will try to fight back. He has a look to the inside of Lecon, but thinks better of it. He's too far back. Maybe he is thinking about just letting this one go, but this is a battle for class. Two silvers fighting it out. Meanwhile, we have a situation developing towards the rear of the grid. P16, 15, 17 and 18 within only a second of each other. Three Ferraris and a Lexus. As they come down into Pouon, Benjamin Warrack only 4/10 off of Justin Gottlieb, who seems to be struggling with the Lexus at this track. And Ryan Page hoping to reclaim his P1 in class. Now he looks at the inside down at Lafania. He thinks better of it, and that's allowed Steiner to maybe take a little bit of time out of him. Steiner, is he going to make a move? No, he gets very much closed off of any potential move he could have made there, but I think the Platinum driver has definitely got the pace over these AM drivers to make it done. This is certainly going to be helping, though, Benjamin Worak, as the threat from Steiner becomes Page's top priority. But Benjamin Worak looking to oh! Big hit! That's a big hit. Once again, Ryan Page missing his braking marker into the chicane and completely wiping out Benjamin Worak. His immediate competition for class. Unlike last time, he does not look to be giving it up quite so quickly as he did, maybe because it is for class. I think he's going to just try and run away and make up enough place to avoid penalty. He would be lucky to do so. Dominic Viper, meanwhile, during those battles at the rear, has dropped to P5. I'm not sure if anything happened between them. I don't believe so. I think there must have just been a clean overtake somewhere down the line. Meanwhile, Steiner on Gottlieb now. The currently closest battle in this field. Gottlieb goes a little deep into Bruxelles. He's got Steiner right on his rear through No Name. Can Steiner get a good run down to Pouon? I don't think he quite has it within his grasp. He doesn't yet. It's 0.3 seconds is the gap now. Now I should know actually at the moment. Zor, that being something Zor that also begins with an X, I cannot remember, has pitted and becomes the first driver in this race to have pitted and made his mandatory pit stop. Maybe trying to get it done early and go to the end of the race on a full tank of fuel. I don't know if that's the most sensible option, as he will be weighed down by the fuel early on, and then we'll have to run the end of the race on worn tyres. Unless he just pitted for damage, in which case it may have been the most sensible thing at the time. We'll have to wait and see as we come to the final hour of this race. I say final hour like it's an endurance race that's been going on for several of them. It's only been going for 20 minutes thus far. Meanwhile, there is a battle going on once again. Hoffman has gained a little bit more back on Davies, who did most recently overtake him into La Source. And the power of the BMW trying to combat the power of the Lamborghini. Davies had a slightly worse Eau Rouge section. It's a 0.4 second gap for P4 in class. As the two of them choose very different lines through Le Com there. Now onto the run down to Bruxelles. So look on board inside of the BMW, the BMV, with the M-Power and the performance. Pouon flick it in. The long left-hander get a good point to start accelerating again to carry you all the way out onto that right-hand curb on the exit. Up to Piff Paff. Where it goes Piff. And it goes Paff. Things have begun to settle down a little now. There are only around 4 major close battles happening on track. Travis McNeil is getting a little bit of distance put between him and Eli Schwartz. We'll look back then at Steiner, the Ferrari of Manfred Steiner in the Sim Razor team. Still trying to get Justin Gottlieb for 15th place, but hasn't been able to do so for some laps now. I think maybe Steiner has some damage, judging by the bonnet wobble that I can slightly see, and maybe costing him some straight line speed. as the Ferrari is now only within 3/10 of the Lexus ahead. Can he make anything work down to Eau Rouge or up to Le Com afterwards? We'll have to wait and see, as it is. Quick look here, there is a slight battle looking to be developing up the top of the field between Viper and the Vengerek for P4 overall. Meanwhile, Thomas Jack remains your current race leader, having put yet another 2 or 3 seconds from when we last saw between himself and Robin Moe. Although Robin Moe still holds that best lap. Robin currently sitting in the 2:18s, whilst Thomas Jack back into the 2:17s. So 0.2 seconds into the chicane. Will he try and make a lunge? He looks to the inside, but moves to the outside on the braking to make sure he can get a good exit out of the second portion. It looks like he just doesn't have the acceleration compared to Vengerek there to make any significant impact on him. Come through La Source down to Eau Rouge. He can do anything up the top of the hill and through the Kemmel. 0.2 seconds now in it. That is good slipstream range. Does he have to set up, take advantage? 0.1. He is alongside just about, looking under braking, but he doesn't. More confident on the brakes is Vengerek, but he compromises a little bit of the second portion of the chicane. Now down to Purcell. It may be another opportunity, but Vengerek closes the door to the inside. Dominic's going to try the outside, a little bit of hub-to-hub wheel banging. And Vengerek stays ahead, just ever so slightly. Viper, meanwhile, has been compromised on the exit of Speaker's Corner. And he's going to have to... Oh, Davis is off. Davis down after Malmedy, sorry. Must have had some moment there. Let's have a look what happened to him. Go out the yellow flag. Oh, he just gets loose and ends up face first into the red and yellow barriers that line this Spa-Francorchamps circuit. That is not going to be very good for his current race, and may, almost certainly will, need to take some repair at the pit stops, as he should be by that contact down a little bit on top end speed, if not by quite a lot. Dominic Viper, meanwhile, still within a second of Vengerek, but has dropped back after that fight. A very close fight they had through from Le Com down to Speaker's Corner. He's dropped back though, and hasn't, the rest of that lap after Speaker's Corner, been able to gain significantly on his fellow Porsche. Still 0.6 is the gap, very consistent between these two drivers. Vengerek maybe having put a little bit of the hurry up after having to fight so hard to maintain his position on the previous lap. Meanwhile, down the order, what's going on down here? Travis McNeil, and that's Corey Davis into the pit lane. He hit the wall after Malmedy on the last lap and has taken now to take his pit stop of the race. His first, but possibly his only, as he has only to do the one mandatory stop. We see the Helicam go a little bit haywire when other cars are passing by. But meanwhile, Travis McNeil who, once again, I have no idea where he's going to end up last, has just passed Eli Schwartz to take 12th place, as Eli Schwartz got very unsettled at the top of Eau Rouge, had to take the runoff on the inside, just about avoided the wall. That's Travis McNeil up to 12th place. And once again, I'm not quite certain where he's going to end up, so Benjamin Walrack's hopes for his class finish, although now Ryan Page's hopes for a class win, maybe assuaged by the fact that I'm leaning more towards Travis McNeil being a silver driver, judging by his current position in the middle of the silver pack, with the few platinum exceptions, namely of Jarmeek Smith, Simon Beeg, and M. Steiner, although Steiner we know has had issues. Smith we know doesn't enjoy driving the Bentley right now. And I believe Simon Beeg qualified lower down the order, having only done one lap. Meanwhile, Dominic Viper back on the back of Vengerek, only 0.1 second in it into the bus stop chicane. I need to stop calling it that, because I don't like the fact it's still got the bus stop chicane, because it's not a bus stop anymore. Only 0.3 seconds on the exit though. But he has the acceleration, he has the slipstream. Can he once again try and make a move into Lacombe after this little straight Eau Rouge and the big straight ahead? To run downhill, there is a yellow flag somewhere on the track. It's Zor. Let's have a quick look what happened here. Oh, once again he got loose, but instead of going off to the left and whacking that barrier, he went off to the right and missed the barrier entirely. Meanwhile, this is a replay, so I'll give it a second. Looks like Gottlieb is having a good fight, but once again let's go back up with Wengerek. Oh, and Viper has to make it around Corey Davis after Corey Davis leaves the pit lane. You know, I will, maybe in a minute. No, I don't think I'll have time to go back and watch it, because I want to see what's going to happen here. It looks like Vengerek would have been saved a little bit there by the positioning of the back marker car of Corey Davis. Oh, it looks like Vengerek got a little bit slidey through Bruxelles to allow Viper. Can Viper get a good exit this time out of No Name? And run down to Pouon. At that point, the dirty air is not going to be favouring him. We shall see if he can hold on and maybe make a move into Piff Path or into the chicane at the end of the lap. The gap is only 0.2 seconds still. And that's Travis McNeil off at Speaker's Corner. Let's have a quick look at what happened there. Keep you posted on the Viper Vengerek fight as best I can. He just got onto the, I think, the curbing there, maybe a little bit into the grass, and lost his time as Viper and Vengerek looking towards the bus stop. Tries to the outside, but can't make the move stick. But can he get a good run on the exit as Vengerek starts to compromise his line? It's almost bumper to nose. Viper pulled out, but in such a sharp manner, I think he may have lost even a little bit of time doing so. He's going to stick to that outside line, slot back in behind Vengerek down the hill towards Eau Rouge. They are absolutely fighting here. A little bit of a clip at the top of Eau Rouge, as you do. If he wanted, he could have bump drafted all the way down the straight, but he's going to look to the outside of Lacombe, probably hoping for the inside of the second part, and a good braking zone as well to boot. Very nicely taken. Now into Malmedy. He's given Vengerek the inside line for both Malmedy and Bruxelles, but he makes it work. And that's Viper up to P4 and a well-deserved one. That exit of Malmedy was absolutely perfect, whilst I think Vengerek got a little bit loose. But we will certainly have to see if Vengerek can fight back as this race continues. But soon enough, both of these drivers may need to come in for a pit stop. And that pit cycle may play a part in how this particular fight shapes up going forwards. Spa-Francorchamps now pulling ahead a little bit of Viper, which I guess maybe is what you could expect, as he was gaining and gaining and only got stuck behind him. But can Spa-Francorchamps now put the power on a little bit and make some of that place up that he just lost? I mean, we certainly know he can fight and get his elbows out, as Viper did not have an easy enough time to get that done on the second attempt. Gap coming down a little bit, but not by much. As things start to settle down a little again in this race. Although I think that was not quite as good an exit as he would have wanted from Viper there. Spa-Francorchamps still sticking that 0.5 though. He gets a little bit closer, 0.4 now. So timing tower you can see is a bit different to the timing tower I can see on race control. 0.3 seconds in it as they come up to La Com once again, the battleground where they have been fighting so hard. Viper takes the inside defensive early. Spa-Francorchamps to the outside line, that's gone very deep. He is off the track and he's going to have to give that position up, certainly, even if he could try and keep it. That's put him back 0.6 seconds as Justin Gottlieb has just pitted, as has Ryan Page. As we have 45 minutes left in this race, it was 1 hour and 20, so any time from now to around 30 I think is generally going to be the pit window. Of course, the one person who I know will be going long, I hope so, he better not disappoint me now, is, once I can find him. Has he left? Okay, I'm going blind because I cannot find Aaron Fiedlak. I think he has retired from this race. Or maybe retired prior to the race. He was certainly in practice. Yeah, there is no 206 car that I can see. That's a shame because Aaron Fiedlak is well known for going long into races. Let's have a review then whilst things are settled down. Thomas Jack, let's have a look here. He is your race leader by 8 seconds to Robin Moe behind. But he has yet half the race and more to go. It looks like he maybe has had a little bit of crunchiness on his front end. But I can't quite make that out. It might just be a trick of the light. I think it is. No, it's just dirt. Darren tends to get very dirty. Mark of the absolute performance that Thomas Jack is putting in today. Meanwhile, Daniel Scott, a very similarly liveried car, the Wins Copper-Sucard car of Daniel Scott, currently leading in silver class. Daniel did well to get past Bingus McBongus early on in this race. It's now, as you can see, Bingus McBongus there behind him. He's currently sandwiched between two very orange Lamborghinis. But he is 2.7 seconds ahead of his closest rival in his class and his closest rival on this track right now. And then we go back to AM class. Now this is a little bit off because a lot of AM drivers have pitted from the lead, including Ryan Page and Benjamin Warwick, both of whom are your leaders. But Frederick Shublum, after his own incidents in this race early on, currently sits as your amateur class leader. A very beautiful Porsche 951 styled 911. I'm going to say Porsche 951, but I realise that could be an actual Porsche car, and probably is. So it's a Porsche 911, the 951 car. Benjamin Warwick, however, is very likely your net leader. But I'm not sure. I think Ryan Page, having had some big shunts earlier on in this race, so I'll go back to Warwick quickly. Ryan Page had the big shunt earlier in this race and may have repaired it. And that has set him back a good 7 or 8 seconds off of Shiner, possibly 9 seconds actually, off of Warwick, sorry. with Steiner in between them, all of which have pitted. So Benjamin Warwick, once again, the Helios Community Racing driver, both in the RP series and in Project Ameliorite, our other Assetto Corsa series, as part of the Spinning Baguettes team, also Helios Community Racing branded, is your current amateur net leader as far as I can see. Simon Beeg, however, we've just seen, Simon Beeg has a drive-through, assumedly, of 4 cutting track limits. I think it's safe to say that Simon Beeg generally, I mean, anyone who has seen our previous series, anyone who's seen multiple other series in which Simon Beeg has competed, a very quick driver indeed, but I think maybe just did not have much practice for this race and has not only been languishing down in 9th right now, 3rd to last in class, but also has gotten the drive-through for good measure as he goes very wide into the chicane and takes to the pit lane just to make sure. And he is going to serve his, well, actually it depends, he may serve his drive-through, he may serve his pit. I think he's going to pit. Yes, he is pitting in, no wait, he's returning to the pit lane and he may be retiring from this race. I will try and keep an eye, and remember the 95 car. I think Simon Beeg is either pitting or retiring. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure why he returned to the pit lane like that. I just assumed his pit box was really early for some reason. I suppose it wouldn't be. There's only 21 cars left, 22 cars entered. As we can see here, Jameek Smith, who I just decided to go on, trying to fight off what looks to be Steiner, who is a back marker. Double check, yes it is. The 52 car Manfred Steiner, who is a back marker, although one that has had some serious issues throughout this race, which has caused him to be where he is. And gets past Jameek Smith with relative ease and comfort, having himself pitted, while Smith is still on used rubber and in a car that he is notably not very comfortable with at this track right now. Travis McNeil and Justin Gottlieb, meanwhile, also come into the pit lane to serve their mandatory pit stops. And yes, Simon Beeg has retired from this race. Him and Aaron Fiedlak both have retired from this 80 minutes of Spa, which is a shame, but also I'm not quite sure what happened with Aaron. I think it's very clear that Simon Beeg was not quite in the position this evening that he usually would be, as Bingus McMongus now back on the very rear of Daniel Scott. I'm not sure if something has happened to Daniel, who was leading by 2 seconds off the car ahead as Robin Moe pits from P2. At the end of this pit stop, let me actually have a look. I can see the statistics. The time pitted for those who have pitted, so let's have a look. Eli Schwartz, who I now actually can't see, pitted with a 1:47. That is the quickest pit stop of any car on this grid. But that just shows you how long this pit lane is. With the 30 to 40 second actual pit time, it's still taking a good minute and a bit just to get through the double pit lane of the endurance layout. Zor, oh, he's off again. This time he went left. That means that next time he's going to go right again, because every time he does it, he goes a different direction. I'm not sure what happened to him here. Let's have a quick look. He just once again gets loose. I don't believe there was contact there. It looked too far away to me. I would admit I may have been glancing off the screen. But I think, yes, he just got loose once again. And he is still himself down into 21st place. Although it is 20th overall, because he still hasn't. And this is one of the quirks of Race Control, the app we use to keep track of locations and whatnot of cars. Race Control doesn't actually update the position, which, to be fair, is probably the more correct way to do it, until he laps the position where Simon Beeg was on track when he retired, because Zor is multiple laps down, so won't have officially lapped P20, or won't officially be P20 for a little while, until I think he crosses the pit lane to be on the same lap as Beeg was when he retired. Which is obviously a very good way to do it, as Beeg may still be classified, and that's Vengerek was gaining on Viper, and Viper takes his pit stop, as does Pierre Moreno and Hiro Kurakami, who's down in 13th place, but going to be 40th, and maybe a few more places lost from the pit cycle. Biggest Bongus and Daniel Scott also very close together into the pit lane, which I want to see why they're so close together, because they were. Does Daniel very, very much slowing up? Looks like Bingus McBongus was almost catching Daniel Scott when both decided to come into the pit lane for that pit stop. Mandatory stop together. Meanwhile, Tobias Vengerek in P2 and Thomas Jack in P1 have yet to pit. The 4 cars immediately behind them have all pitted. Jarmeek Smith stays out for now unless he comes into the pit lane at the end of this lap. Jarmeek is currently somewhere on track, obscured by multiple other numbers. I think Jarmeek is on the Kemmel straight, I'm not quite sure. Let's have a look. Jarmeek Smith up to 3rd. He's on. Oh, sorry, I was looking for the 8 car for some reason. He's a 107 car because he was in P8, so I was getting mixed signals. He is in Bruxelles with the HCR car of Benjamin Warwick right behind him, but not on the same lap. Meanwhile, Robin Moe has exited the pit lane and done an out lap, and he comes out of the pits as Pierre Moreno, comes up Eau Rouge as Pierre Moreno just comes out of the pit lane. So he will maintain his position ahead of Pierre Moreno, Viper, and anyone else who happened to be behind him at the time of him pitting, except for Tobias Vengerek, who has not pitted yet. And Thomas Jack, meanwhile, your race leader, comes into the pit lane. So I'm going to have a look quickly on board to see what Tobias Vengerek is going to do. Actually, I'm not going to, because I'm going to have a look at this. The pit exit between the two fighting class net leaders, as Hollerbeck and Hoffman have not pitted yet, for the silver class, who are also getting lapped by, I think that's Cheber. And that's going to put Muscle off a little bit. And going to make life very difficult for him. Oh, Cheber's round just misses. Muscle's going to be very happy. Bingus McBongus going to be very happy that he was missed by that. But that has certainly played into Daniel Scott's hands, as Bingus McBongus leaving the pit lane within a hair's breadth of Daniel Scott. Does not manage to convert that distance due to the lapping or lapped car in between them. Currently, actually, a car who is actually fighting for position, having not pitted. So it's not either lapping or lapped, it is a same lap car, but who net will be behind them once the pit cycle has completed. Tobias Vengerek, meanwhile, is leading this race, having not yet chosen to pit for fresh tyres. Once again, there is a mandatory stop, so it's not as though he can choose not to, and even if he could, I don't think any car that I can tell, especially not the Porsche, can do 80 minutes without a pit stop. The Porsche barely made it 70 minutes at Watkins Glen, as Pierre Moreno can certainly attest to, having lost the race in part to that fact at the end. Bongus now 0.2 seconds. Jarmeek Smith also goes up through to P2, having not yet pitted, but the Bentley has a very large fuel tank and can probably take the most of any car on this grid. Bongus looking at a move possibly into the chicane, not quite making it, but that's 0.4 seconds. He has certainly more recently put his foot down. He's absolutely hammering away at Daniel Scott, trying to gain back that lead that he had at the beginning of this race after getting silver pole. Meanwhile, just going to remind you, looking at the standings, Daniel Scott is the leader of the silver class. Bingus McBongus sitting in P4 at the moment with 10 points off of Daniel Scott. But if Bingus can win this race, will be a little bit closer to potentially continuing to be in the fight at the next one. But it is only a P3 difference between a 3-point difference between first and second in class. So Daniel Scott certainly will be very happy with his dominance, whether he finishes P1 or P2. He certainly has a good hope, with only one round left after this one, of taking the championship quite nicely. And that's Kurakami in a barrier up at Lacombe. Not the first person to have troubles there. I think it might be the first time we've seen him have troubles there. Let's have a quick replay of this. Much like Cheba, just loses it. Tries to spin it round, just clips the barrier. And going now back off to continue his race. Let's have a quick look then. Bingus McDonald still fighting with Daniel Scott. This is currently the closest battle on this grid, as the top three have come in to take their pit stops. And we shall see race order return to normality. We'll see if Frederick Schublam will do the same at the end of his lap. Currently himself coming through Blanchimont. Muscle looks to the inside of the chicane, but doesn't make it happen. But can he get a better exit out of it? Down to La Source they go. These two are absolutely scrapping away as Vengerek comes out of the pit lane. He will be down to P4 when all is said and done. The timing tower takes a little while to update in the sim. He'll be down to P5, sorry. And Daniel Scott now through to P6, and Bingus McBongus up to P7. Although he will certainly be hoping to be up to P6 by the end of this lap once again. Frederick Schublam still has not pitted. He remains the last driver in this race to take to the pits. But he must do so very shortly, as I don't think his tank... Well, his tank can arguably take another 20 minutes. But that would be sort of self-hampering, as the pit stop is mandatory anyway. And there is, in Assetto Corsa Competizione, no extra time allocated for fuel. At least not in the amounts that we're putting in when you're taking tyres as well, which are mandatory. Looks like Daniel Scott maybe has put a little bit of the pace back on, but still 0.4 seconds now. It was 0.7 into P1, it was 0.4 out of it. With these cars and drivers showing that they have certain strengths in certain areas of the track, despite their generally similar construction between the Lamborghini and the McLaren, two rather low-bodied, wide sports cars compared to some of the bigger boys. Mid-engined, I believe, both of them. Certainly showing where their strengths are, as long as now on the straights. 0.3 seconds to the McLaren, which I believe, I'm not certain, at least I've heard rumour, has been bopped a little in recent times to do with its top end. And he goes deep into the chicane to Bingus, and he's going to have to reset and rework himself to try and take that position once again on the next lap. I want to have a quick look. This is when it's going to make the overtake, by the way. Chebert still staying out. Frederick Schublam not taking to pit lane. I think he may have fueled long. I have to be careful, because it's almost always the way that whenever I look at another car just to see what's going on, the actual move gets made. But maybe I should go to somewhere where I might also see the move. Corey Davis currently fighting Eli Schwartz, another silver battle. Only 0.4 of a second within them, the Audi versus Lamborghini, but I think we just saw a replay of the Muscle Daniel situation. Corey Davis goes very deep into the chicane and loses all that time. once again have to try and make it up. Let's have a look forwards again then. Frederick Schublem has not yet pitted. He is going to get overtaken by Jarmy Smith, almost certainly. If he doesn't do it now, he's going to do it when Cheba takes to the pits, but I think he'll do it well before then. I think he'll do it well before the next corner, to be honest with you. And it comes through Malmedy and now down to Bruxelles. Looks to the inside. Is it going to be a dive? I think it is. Yes, it is. A little dive there. He's going to get the throttle applied onto the exit. And he's well ahead through to Speaker's Corner. Alright, back with Bingus Mukbongus. 0.6 seconds still between these two, scrapping out the lead in the silver class. The Wins car versus the Lamborghini, which I don't know if it has actually got Mukbongus Racing car. Oh, great. A lot of scratches on the front of that paintwork. I'll take maybe that for both of them. Oh, I think Daniel Scott might have got loose there. The camera didn't properly show it. It might just been the way the camera was angled. 0.5 now in it. As they cross the line, 0.601 seconds between them. Bongus very late on the brakes there. Can he get good acceleration down to Eau Rouge even? As we look back on the grid, Corey Davis now has caught within to a 0.2 second gap between himself and the Audi of Eli Schwartz, where the Audi has the pace in a straight line. Can Corey make anything stick, as Frederick Schublem has also now pitted, the last driver to take to the pit lane, or at least for their mandatory stop. Oh, a little bit of a internet lag situation going on there, but still Corey Davis has not. I've actually lost time in those last few corners to Eli Schwartz. And Bingus Mukbongus now also losing time to Daniel Scott out of Malmedy, and maybe he can gain it back through Bruxelles and Huon when it comes to him. Oh, Corey Davis is side by side now on the Kemmel Straight with Eli Schwartz. Going to try and make the outside, but he doesn't. He thinks better of it, breaks it a little early. And that allows Corey Davis to stay ahead, but I need to go back to Bingus Mukbongus, who is still fighting with the same gap to Daniel Scott. If there's any exciting class today, it's definitely in silver. At least after that four-way Porsche battle at the beginning. Try and switch back and forth, though. See them going through. Jaker in the chat says Scott doing a fantastic job of holding off Bongus, and he certainly has been. He has been doing everything he needs to do. I don't know what led to Bongus taking and catching up, but it's possible that whatever happened, Bongus is maybe hoping will happen again towards the end of the next stint, of this stint, and maybe we'll try and make the move then. Try not to burn off too much now, but it certainly doesn't look like he's holding back in any way. Meanwhile, Corey Davis now once again on the section of track which I don't think has a distinct name, but through Paul Frere and through Blanchimont after it, which can be either that corner or the last one. Usually I think this one's more referred to Blanchimont, but as with many of the corner names of Spa, it's a very loose collection of corners. As he looks to the inside, I think he's going to make the move into the chicane. Oh, that's Eli Schwartz, takes a very tight line and causes some contact, I think, there with the Tango car. But it looks like Corey Davis is going to get through and into La Source, is almost certainly going to hold it. They exit those side by side still. Corey Davis just ahead. Let's have a look at what Eli thinks to do. Maybe into Eau Rouge. He's going to try it, but he's given the Lamborghini the inside. But he is well ahead. Audi power coming in clutch. He is well ahead through Eau Rouge. There's nothing Corey Davis can do about it as he goes on to get lapped. But I think that's Dominic Viper. No, it's not. It's the other black Porsche of Travis McNeil. As Kurakami, you see there, yellow flags off the track at Le Commentator. So that's Corey Davis not only losing the place back from Eli Schwartz that he had only just gained, but Travis McNeil also taking a position once again. Up to 12th for him. Once again cementing in my mind that he might be silver rather than amateur, but we will find out. Let's see what can be done here. Meanwhile, up the top of the grid, I should say, Bingus Mabongos now only within 1 second of Daniel Scott, losing a little bit of time in that battle. That's Davis. That was an interesting I think the person in the chat that just came on to cheer Davis on may have caused a little bit of a jinxing. I want to have a look back 30 seconds. Let's see what exactly happened there. Let's see from the passenger on board or the actual driver on... No, interior, that will do it. We'll see what he's doing with his wheel here. That'll be brilliant. I think he just got a snap. Yep, no, he just snapped the car too much over to the left, trying to correct. And lost the car. Very much so. Meanwhile, whilst we've been watching the replay, you'll see it in a second. Travis McNeil fighting through the chicane with Eli Schwartz. But Eli, that Audi power on the exits just is something else, especially compared to the Porsche. Further down, Justin Gottlieb now after his issues in this race. Fighting with Benjamin Worak, it's Silver versus the AM leader. And we shall see if Gottlieb can gain that 14th place for himself. We'll keep an eye on the other battles up the field. Still, Bingus Mabongos only 0.8 seconds to Daniel Scott. Travis McNeil 0.8 to Eli Schwartz. It is Lexus versus Ferrari power, which isn't something you often say, at least not the Lexus part. Something there happened to Ryan Page, a quick yellow flag for him, but has since restored to normality. Let's have a quick move off of this one. Travis McNeil now much closer to Eli Schwartz than before. Again, post-race will depend on whether this is a battle for between AM and Silver or a battle between two Silver drivers. Once Travis is sorted into his correct class, it adds a little air of mystery to this whole race situation. Oh, let me have a look. That's a good idea, Jake. I don't think it does, sadly. It doesn't give me the... Jake asked in the chat if the race control system we use to monitor gaps and whatnot gives the number of warnings that drivers have for off-tracks, and sadly it does not. Although it does give me a lot of pit stop and speed trap data, which can be very fun to have a look at. Whilst we see Travis McNeil once again 0.2 seconds away from Eli Schwartz, but backing off into the braking zone a little bit. I can see that the current fastest car on the track, or two fastest cars on the tracks, are tied between Thomas Jack and Bingus Mabongos at 272 kilometers per hour through the speed trap. But I can't see anything else to do with their actual warnings. We can actually see the number of times that drivers have pitted over the lap, which is only once for every driver in this race, but at Alton Park was around, I think by the end of Alton Park, which had 2 mandatory pit stops, only 4 drivers have actually done the 2 pit stops because so many other people had drive-thrus and other issues that everyone else had had to pit more than the mandatory amount. But we see now Travis McNeil on the outside, backs off early, but very deep goes Eli Schwartz, and Travis is going to try and make something up through to Malmedy. All the while, Steiner behind is gaining on both of them. As they come through No Name. The misnomered corner, if ever there was one. Now into Pouron. Travis is going to try and focus on a good exit, but the Audi power is just not letting him play with the Porsche acceleration right now. And all the while, Steiner now behind within a second of the cars ahead. Let's see if I can change the timing tower. Is there anything more interesting? No, it's just that. Shame. I was hoping maybe there was a more regularly updated version, but the gap now within 0.5 seconds to Schwartz ahead, but 0.6 seconds to Steiner behind. He looks to the outside, he gets it very nice onto the braking. I think that's gone and done it for him, but the Audi's going to try and come back on him. Let's have a look. Can Eli Schwartz use the power to get back on him before Lecombe? But he's got Steiner behind now to contend with. And once again, I think that's saying to me that this may very well end up being a silver battle, as Travis McNeil fighting on pure pace with a fellow silver driver, or a soon-to-be fellow silver driver. But the platinum driver of Steiner, who has had not as good luck this race as some others, will probably be on the rear of Schwartz very shortly. And the gap between Schwartz and McNeil now has dropped back to a second. So I think it's safe to say for now the move is done. Although as I said that, McNeil got a little squirrely out of Lecombe, but seems to have maintained his position. Right, meanwhile, as Steiner continues to reel in Eli Schwartz ahead, we've got a little battle going on between Hullebeck and Jameek Smith. MDK Motorsports Samuel Hullebeck, or Holubeck, in yet another Porsche, within just under a second of Jameek, the platinum driver, in the Bentley he loves, but not so much around here right now. Meanwhile, at the top of the grid, you can see Thomas Jack leads by now 11.3 seconds over Robin Moe. So he has been quite dominant this race, but has not ever been outside of a pit stop's distance. And that's a regular pit stop, not even a Spa pit stop, of Robin Moe behind. What else is happening down the grid? Bingus and Bonga still trying to get back onto the rear of Daniel Scott, but Daniel, as the fuel has burned off and the tyres have not yet gone off, seemingly has pulled something out. Maintain that gap to about a second to the car behind. but we shall see, as there are still 13 minutes, 14 minutes just about left in this race session. Can Fingers and Bongos says Ryan Page, I want to go back and have a look at that. Got a very short yellow flag there, I think, out of Eau Rouge. The Ferrari tried to lose it on him, but he collected it up quite nicely. Let's have a look what happened. Oh, a little slide, but collects it nicely into the pit lane exit. Meanwhile, Manfred Steiner is right on the rear of Eli Schwartz for 12th place into Pouon. He makes the late dive. Well, kind of reasonably timed dive, I guess. And he gets through and is ahead of Eli Schwartz. Out of Pouon and into Lafan. Lafania. Hiffbaff. More fun. Ahead again, Bingham and Bonga still probably the closest battle for position right now on this track. That has been most regularly occurring. Oh, as that's Cheba ahead of Daniel Scott, and that's going to slow him up significantly and cause Bingham and Bonga to gain some time on Daniel Scott. Through Bruxelles they go. Now Muscle's also going to have to get past Frederick Chauvelin before Pouon and hope not to lose too much time from it. I don't know if he will. He's flashing. He's saying, let me pass. I am fighting for a lead. And obviously, if they feel that Cheba was at all blocking in that position, they are entitled to put a ticket in. But that almost was a closing of the gap due to that back marker, but then that back marker even out the score anyway. Bongos now has once again closed the gap up a little bit, 0.7 seconds to Daniel Scott. The interesting edge I've only just noticed is Daniel Scott's best lap thus far this race is a 2:18.590. Bingus McBonga's best lap this race is a 2:18.580. These are two very evenly matched drivers. Jarmeek Smith at some point there has gotten himself a drive-through, assumedly for track limits warnings. And he now, after being chased down by Hollebeck, not this lap clearly, but at least within the next 2 laps now, I think, is going to have to serve a drive-through penalty and take to the pit lane a second time in this race, having already done his mandatory stop. That's not what you want to hear in the last 10 minutes of an 80-minute race, as Justin Gottlieb is in a barrier in a very bad way down towards campus just on the exit of Pirpath. He's having to wait as there comes Robin Moe, and now he's got clean air to reverse into. Let's go back 30 seconds and have a look just to make sure we get the incident. Oh, he gets into the gravel. Oh, that's an interesting way to lose it. Luckily, not as big a hit as it first looked, as he only got a slight glancing blow off the right-hand wall and a slight tap on the left. But yes, I think there might have been a little bit of an overcorrection on his part on the steering there. That's Justin Gottlieb down in 17th place right now, the rear of the silver class, by a good 15 seconds off Corey Davis, who is next up the road, having had his own issues earlier in this race. Bongus now on the back of Daniel Scott, 0.5 seconds once again, reeling in the Scotsman ever so slowly. The man from Wisconsin is eating his big bowl of cheese this morning and gone for it. That's what they eat in Wisconsin, isn't it, for breakfast? .6 seconds of it into the source. Bongos gets a very nice braking right on the rear of Daniel Scott going into the corner. He will now start to get the full effect of that slipstream. At least he will hope. And Jarmeek Smith has been overtaken by Holobeck as he takes to the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty, which he again got most likely, almost certainly, due to track cuts warnings. He was P8 going into the pit lane. He is now P10 already. McNeil is 25 seconds up the road from Jarmeek Smith, or was, sorry, now he's 10 seconds up the road. At the length of this pit lane, it'll be very close as to whether Jarmeek gets out ahead, although I think he just might do it. Let's have a quick look as we go away from the battle between Bongos and Daniel Scott. McNeil comes through La Source. Jarmeek still trundling down the centre of the pit lane, almost at the end, willing it to come ever so close. You can see him there. He gets passed by McNeil. He's going to get passed by Steiner. Will he get passed by Eli Schwartz for good measure? Yes, he will. And Jarmeek comes out of the pit lane ahead of Benjamin Wolrak. Although he's still got to try and maintain a position. There's Wolrak coming through. I think Wolrak will have this, as Jarmeek is not yet up to pace. And Wolrak gets Jarmeek down from 8th to 14th from one drive-through. So late in the race, it's surprising how many spots he loses, because this is one of the longest pit lanes. This is the longest pit lane in this particular simulation, and possibly one of the longest, I think, in the world. I'm not sure how many longer pit lanes there are in existence. And behind Jarmeek Smith is Thomas Jack, your race leader, who will want to be lapping these people as quickly as possible, and that's going to be very good for the confidence of the person who is now the rearmost Platinum class driver after that drive-through. But Jarmeek is gaining on Benjamin Wolrak ahead. Again, he is still a Platinum driver and certainly deserves to be in that class, and will certainly overtake Wolrak, but he's also got Thomas Jack now to contend with. Ooh, a little bit too late on the braking, maybe almost causing an incident. Thomas Jack's going to have to be careful here, as Jarmeek wants his place. And the rules state if two cars are fighting for position on the track, they do not have to give way or are not obliged not to move when other back markers are present. Oh, sorry, not back markers, blue flag lapping cars are present. He is through. Jarmeek gets ahead of Benjamin Wolrak and lets Thomas Jack, I think, through, or will do, into the bus stop. The rules, basically, as they are set, is that back markers, they do not have to jump out of the way of lapping cars. Obviously, being GT3 racing, that's a generally accepted rule in real motorsports, as well as the way we do it here. However, in normal conditions, they are not allowed to defend their position, and are not allowed to move unnecessarily. However, once again, there is a caveat that if two cars are racing for position, the lapping car must simply treat them as though they are also racing with them. As we do not say to cars you have to end your own race to allow a front marker through. So Jarmeek and Wolrak could fight to their heart's content, and Thomas Jack would just have to be content to sit there and deal with it. Obviously, he can also make his own racing moves if he really wants to, but in the end, didn't need to. Meanwhile, Bings and Bongos once again 0.8 seconds as we come to the last 4 minutes of this race. doing this, we're going to get ready, prepared to call in our race leaders or race winners of each class into the commentary booth. But we do not as of yet know exactly who that's going to be. I think it's almost certain it's going to be Thomas Jack, it's almost certain it's going to be Benjamin Morak. But Bingus McBongus and Daniel Scott has yet to be decided here. But Daniel Scott certainly holding on well. Bongus able to gain a few tenths on occasion, but not really gaining much on that second gap he has for himself. As it stands, 2.5 minutes left. Thomas Jack is still your race leader, as he has been since the very beginning of this race. A dominant performance from the Finnish driver, followed by Robin Moe, who has gained a little bit from his starting position. Pierre Morello then P3, followed by Dominic Viper, then Vengarek, and that is your top 5 in Platinum class. Following them gets a few silvers, with Daniel Scott leading from Bingus McBongus, Hollebeck and Hoffman, which then goes to Travis McNeil, the driver as of yet undecided in class, but currently racing as a Platinum in the 420 Porsche, who takes 10th place. Steiner then, Manfred Steiner in the Ferrari in 11th, followed by Eli Schwartz, the silver driver, in the 38 Audi. Jarmeek Smith, after his drive-through and subsequent overtake of Benjamin Morak, has taken himself 13th place in the 107 Bentley. Benjamin Morak then the AM leader, the current AM leader, and looking likely to be the AM winner in just a minute's time, is P14, very fittingly for the number 14 car. Corey Davis then, silver Lamborghini, in 15th, Ryan Page in 16th, Frederick Schublem, Justin Gottlieb, Hiro Kurakami and Zor take the last spots of the top 20. And from this race we have lost Simon Beeg, and I believe... Wait, no, we've lost 3 drivers, sorry, actually, I've just realised we've lost Simon Beeg, we lost Aaron Fiedelack at some point along the way, and at some point as well after his big crash on lap 1, or lap 2, we have lost Aaron Clues as well, as Jarmeek Smith is going to take that 13th place and make it into a 12th as he fights with Eli Schwartz once again. Again, the Audi power is going to play against the Bentley. And you heard the message there. Thomas Jack has taken the line to start the final lap. Oh! That was an interesting amount of slowing for Eli Schwartz, and Jarmeek Smith just giving a light nudge, almost as if to say, come on, let's go, what are we doing? We're racing still. Maybe Eli Schwartz thought they were on the last lap for some reason. But Jarmeek is going to fight to try and get that P12 for the end of this race. It won't make a difference to his class position, but might help his ego a little bit after that drive-through that he got only 10 minutes ago. But I think it's over for most of the battles. Bingus McBongus still only 1.1 seconds behind. Jarmeek really struggling there to make any move stick on the Audi. It looks as though it's going to be Thomas Jack unless anything happens. Commentator's curse be damned. Let's commentate curse things. Thomas Jack definitely going to win this race with a 15-second gap. That's the thing, as a driver, or as a steward, or as any other person, you don't want chaos. As a commentator, chaos is your bread and butter, and you want as much of it as possibly can be. But Jarmeek still really struggling on this last lap to make any sort of progress against the Audi. As Eli Schwartz is round, Jarmeek stops for a second. That's Walrek through to P12. Oh! Robin Moe had to take big avoiding action there. I'm going to have a look at this again. Actually, we're not. I'm going to see. Was it contact? Yes, it was. I'm going to have a look at it after the race once again. But we're going to now watch Thomas Jack. He said Robin Moe. Thomas Jack crosses the line to take P1. Robin Moe now coming up to the bus stop. It will be finishing the race Manfred Steiner, Benjamin Walrek and Jarmeek Smith before Robin Moe finishes in P2. I'm going to have a quick look back as there's now only 0.6 seconds between Bingus McBongus and Daniel Scott as they come through Stavelot to almost just about finish this race. And once that is done, I'm going to try and have a look quickly back at the previous lap, but Pierre Moreno has taken P3 in the Pro class, followed by Dominic Viper and Tobias Vingerek. I think Bongus only 0.6 back. I think it's not going to be enough. It's going to be just too short. He has tried to fight as much as he can, but he's been held off by this man here, the Scotsman Daniel Scott himself, as he takes P1 in silver class and the race win. But they're certainly, both of them, given a lot of fight and a lot for us to watch here today. Well, everyone else comes to finish. Let's have a real quick look. I want to find Eli Schwartz. Let's have a quick look before everyone has finished at what happened here. Was there contact? Yes, there was. Jarmeek a little bit of not expecting the slowdown of the Audi. Just bumps into the rear of him and takes him out ever so slightly. I don't know. That might be a penalty if it's put in. It will depend on whether Eli Schwartz decides to put in a ticket for that, as it hasn't really affected. Actually, no, let me have a check. I can't see because he has left the race session. We'll see what ends up happening there ticket-wise in our post-race stewarding. And I'm going to call in our race winners from each class to join me in the commentary booth to give a little bit of feedback of their experience. The tickets have started to come in. I will simply say that was a very, very exciting race to watch. I'm very glad to have been able to take over for Deep Cuts. I do always enjoy watching some good action in a set of Corsa Competizione. Futsuki in the chat saying he loves the Mount Fuji HCR livery of the Nissan 990 that was driven by Hiro Kurakami. Maybe because he made it, and I completely agree, because earlier in this same race I complimented Thomas Jack and Daniel Scott's liveries, which someone may have also made. I am going to bring in... I don't see Benjamin Warwick as of yet. I can't do this in reverse order. But if Benjamin Warwick does not turn up for an interview, well, that's perfectly fine. I mean, you're not obliged to. So I shall bring in your Platinum class leader, because I think I've got more to talk to Daniel Scott about. Mr. Thomas Jack. Hello, Tom.
Hello, hello.
Feels like just last week I was speaking to you.
Oh, you must have missed me.
Good race. Good job. Race win. Just like last week. Just like every other week I've spoken to you in the last few weeks.
Thank you.
How was that race for you? Because I think I barely saw you.
It was. I mean, yeah, it was quite dominant, I guess. I was a little stressed at the start when Mo was keeping up, and if not going faster some laps. I was promised a free win, and I saw him go fast, and I was like, no. But yeah, in the end, the Porsche is pretty rough on tires, and McLaren is quite quick around here, so I had a bit of an advantage. And yeah.
I mean, it was a gap, but it wasn't any more than a single pit stop's worth. So if you'd had anything happen to you, you almost certainly would have been immediately on you, or if not past you. So surely that must have been a little bit of a stressful situation. You didn't just run away with it like Matt's at Watkins, or.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I don't think it was comfortable in the sense that as long as I didn't make a mistake, I was gonna be fine, like a major mistake. So I was well, I wasn't exactly taking it easy. I was still pushing the whole way, but yeah, I had a comfortable margin, let's say, in case a little Eau Rouge happened.
I think you certainly had a very comfortable margin. At the end of the race, then, you had a little bit of traffic from two cars who were fighting for position after Jarmeek had his drive-through. Were you a bit worried at that point that anything was gonna go wrong?
No, I was just taking it easy. I knew they weren't fighting in the same class, so I figured it wasn't going to be a long fight if they did fight. And I think in the end, Wolrak just sort of hopped off out the way, and then Jimmy hopped off out the way. So I was just making sure I was right up the back of them, hurrying them up a little, telling them to get out the way in the hopes that they would.
Well, no. Well, congratulations to you on your rather dominant performance. I think your continued lead of the drivers' standings.
Thank you very much. Yes.
And are you looking forward to Suzuka 2 weeks time?
Yes, I love that.
Suzuka 2 weeks time, and then 1 week later you get to do it again in a different car.
Yes, yeah. In a rocket ship though, in 2 weeks.
Your rocket ship. That's Project A rocket ship. Anyway, congratulations to you, Tom, and I'm sure I'll speak to you some point in the future.
I hope so.
Right, cheers.
Thanks.
Right, that was your race winner in Platinum class, Mr. Robin. I almost said Robin Moe. I have Robin Moe on the brain lately. Mr. Thomas Check. Not Robin Moe. Robin Moe was P2 in class. Now I'm going to go and speak to Mr. Benjamin Warrack, your AM winner, because I want to do it in a particular order, and I am chaotic. Hello, Mr. Warrack.
Hello.
Congratulations. Amateur class win. Hard fought at some points.
Yeah.
How was the race for you?
The first stint was hard because there was a lot of traffic, and I didn't manage to put a good pace. Then on the second stint, when I had some clean air, I could manage to create a gap with Ryan Page, my teammate. So yeah, the second stint was easier than the first one.
Oh, that's good. I got to admit, once again, you're a bit like Thomas Jack. You kind of had a mostly comfortable race out in front, but obviously, being where you were, you had a lot of silver cars and even the occasional platinum car coming around you due to their own misfortunes. Was that occasionally a little bit worrying? Was there any challenges there in trying to deal with those, not really lapping or lap traffic, but just those other cars coming through the field?
Especially Gottlieb at the same pace than me, so we do a lot of the race together. So a little bit of pressure when it was very close to me, but I managed to keep the car on the track and go to the end.
Well, no, congratulations to you. And I think with Kurakami's less fortunate race, I think that might put you just about, well, it will put you, I think, as the leader in class at the moment.
Yeah.
So congratulations to you, and hopefully, maybe, well, I probably won't speak to you next time, but Deep, who will once again be back, may speak to you next race as the champion of AM.
I hope so. Thanks.
Right, cheers for coming.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye. Right, now I'm going to speak to your silver leader, who I think I've got a little bit more to say with, at least in terms of having watched quite a long series of battling with him, so I think it's right to save him for last. Mr. Daniel Scott. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I'm very good, thank you. I'm
Good.
extremely good because the last few laps were getting last quarter of the race were getting a little bit dull, a little bit gaps forming, but there were
Mhm.
two cars constantly giving me something to watch.
Yeah, I hated that race. That was very stressful.
Well, I
He
mean,
was
you
behind
won.
me less than a second the entire time, and he was so much better than me in bus stop that I was very scary. But I won and feel great. And yeah, it was a good race.
How was the race from the start? Because you obviously qualified P2, just
Yes,
behind him, best of your ability. Couldn't just make
he
that pole.
no, he's just a bit quicker than me. I was on a faster lap by invalidated, so I would have got it, but I think into Eau Rouge he was boxed in, and I saw him tap the brake. I went up his inside and got him quite easily actually, and so did Jamik. And then Jamik did a wonderful job for the first 10 laps or so, keeping him behind. But then once Muscle got through, he was just a second behind me most of the race. So it was a great race, Muscle. So I thank him for that. We had a lot coming together in the pits. I don't know if you saw.
I didn't see you actually come together. I saw as you went into the pit lane, you were neck and neck. Coming out the pit lane, you were neck and neck. Well, not neck and neck, but bumper to rear end. And then,
Yeah,
and then you exited basically, two cars into one, and then Cheba basically saved your bacon a little bit.
oh, did he?
Well, Frederick Schublin was the lapping car that Muscle kind of couldn't really make
Oh,
a move
yes.
to look on for.
Yes. Cheba, yes, I remember that now. Yeah, that was very helpful. And there was a couple of things that helped me. I got a bit lucky, but
Although
I
then,
was able to keep him behind in the first sector and second sector. He was just quicker than me in the third sector.
although then later in the race, Cheba gave us a little bit of hope that Muscle might close the gap, as I think you also got caught up behind him, but then
Yes,
Muscle got caught
I
behind
was
him anyway.
not happy at the time because he held me up quite a bit, and he was still defending into Brussels. But it was okay because then he closed the door on Muscle, so the gap between us stayed the same after it was all through. So that calmed me down a bit. But yeah, just overall very, very happy.
You should also,
Thanks to Robin for the coaching and Tom for the advice, and maybe I've made Lawrence proud as well. So that'll be good.
I hope you've made Lawrence Scott very proud of you. I was going to say, actually, you should also know, and I don't know if you would have noticed this because you probably wouldn't have. You and Muscle were so evenly paced. Your best lap was I think it was a 18.590. His
And
best
his was
lap
8-0.
8.80.
Yeah,
It was so amazingly close between the two of you, despite the cars being so different in some ways.
it was a really great race. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Also, you should know, you are now the definite sole leader of the Silver Championship, which is also really fun. Every winner of this race has either just gained the lead, has remained in the lead, or like yourself, become the sole leader from being a tied leader.
Oh, really?
Thomas
That's
Jack,
cool.
P1 with 29 points now will have an extra 16.
Yes.
You were tied with Philip Schmidt with 29 points also. You will now have 16, and Schmidt was not here, but I think Eli Schwartz will still have a little sword in your back. And
You'll be close.
Walrack just overtook Kurakami for the lead of bronze.
Ah, okay. And Bongus will be moving up to third as well, I think. So
Bongus might... yes, he will be, because he has
Yes.
19 points. It's all very close between these
all to play
championships.
for in the next
It's
race.
very
I'm
much
looking
what
forward
play
to it.
for, but you certainly have a dominant position with Philip Schmidt not being there. You're 9 points already in front of the P3 car with 20 points. So you've
Yes.
certainly got a dominant position. You've got a lot to play with. You'll have to.
I'm just glad I
get
won a
some-
race because I didn't want to win a championship without winning a race because that was
Oh, I
worrying
can't.
me.
If I could remember the NASCAR driver's name that did that, I would say it, but I cannot remember for the life of me who it was. But congratulations on your win. 2 weeks away, Suzuka. You got to
Perfect.
get practicing. You got to get coached. Robin's got coached.
I do need to get coached. Yeah, I'll thank Robin again because the coaching has helped me so much this season. Every race we come to, I smash my personal best by seconds. So highly recommend the coaching that we do every 2 weeks.
Oh, that's very kind of you. Well, congratulations, and I'm sure I'll speak to you very shortly, but
Of
maybe
course.
2 weeks' time, Deep will speak to you in my stead, and maybe next week I might speak to you in Project Ameliorite, where you are currently one of the championship contenders. Also,
Yes. I'm very, very hopeful for that as well, but we'll see.
well, thank you very much for joining me, Daniel, and congratulations.
Thank you very much. See you later.
See ya. Right, that was your silver class leader, Mr. Daniel Scott, as we look at the Sol 13 Thomas Jack wins car, still on the server after the session has ended. I will leave you then with a thank you, obviously, for sticking with us, for watching this very long race. 80 minutes, which isn't very long, but is long for a sprint race. And leave you with a couple of promos. So, oh, I nearly said RP series promo because that's how my OBS tabs are worked up. Project A next weekend, I will also be commentating that. It will be a 27-lap race at Autopolis. Project A being Racing Pal's Open Wheel Championship, where each week, or each 2 weeks, drivers can upgrade their cars, or teams can upgrade their cars, and compete for the bragging rights of being the fastest car on the track, which I guess is all of racing really, but also doing so by editing their cars. That will be at Autopolis, the Japanese racing circuit that is probably one of the least known Japanese racing circuits, but also a lot of fun, and I know there's a lot of upgrades that are coming to the next race that will be very, very interesting to see. Then in more than 2 weeks' time, I was going to say 2 weeks' time, and I realize it's not, Saturday, September 16th, is the 4 Hours of Zolder Racing Pal's next endurance race, a GT3 only race. You can join solo or duo. It will have live stewarding and a live stream to boot. And that will be happening on the Racing Pal's Discord. If you want to sign up, go to the RP Enduro channels and sign up through the race app sheet. Provide custom liveries and whatever else you want, and come join us for 4 hours of a track I don't think we've ever actually run before as a endurance race. I'm not sure. I think we ran it in a GT4 season a while back. I can't remember the last time we actually run it as a proper series season. But a very fun track, and likely to lead to quite a bit of death. So come and see. You could possibly win, because just by surviving Zolder. And in 2 weeks' time here in this same time slot, he will be back with Mr. Deep Cuts, who I am filling in for this week. At least most likely back with Mr. Deep Cuts if nothing else comes up again. It will be the season finale of the 5-round season of RP series at Suzuka. I will most likely not see you then, but someone will. Thank you for watching. I have been your commentator, Mr. James Andrews, and good night.